I'm of the opinion that the regular Pixel 9 is actually no longer the best base model at its proposed $799 retail price, but what about the newly announced Galaxy S25? Well, here's how these two stack up and how they compare. Quickly though, before that, how about you go ahead and slap that subscribe button like it actually owes you some money. I love making content for you, the viewer, and becoming a subscriber hopefully nets you some nice videos like this to watch in future. Plus it helps me out more than you know. Cheers, and let's get back to this comparison. So why are we comparing the Pixel 9 to the base model Galaxy S25? Well, for the past couple of years, Google has offered an incredible package at under $600. That changed this year, or at least last year, and now it's a whole $200 more for effectively the same phone. Because of that, I actually personally don't think that the Pixel 9 at its $799 retail price is the best base model on Android anymore. It's a fantastic package, there's no doubt about that, but it's just not quite worth nearly $800. You should only buy it with substantial discounts and rebates, and I said that as such in my long-term review. Go check that out if you haven't seen it on the channel already. The S25, that also costs now $799 now that it's available. That means it's vying for the exact same buyer pool, which potentially is you, as the Pixel 9 more than it ever has done before. There are of course going to be many similarities between these two, including that start price, but which is the best option for someone looking for a new Android phone? Well, this is hopefully everything you need to know as of the launch. And firstly, I think the size difference is starting to affect the pocketability a tad here. I will say that on paper, the size difference may seem large when you see the actual dimensions. There is a difference though, and the S25 is a little smaller in the hand, so that might get a little bit more enticing for anyone wanting a more pocketable smartphone at 6.2 inches versus a 6.3 inch Pixel 9. If you care about the weight of your phone as well, there is a 30-gram difference between these two. I think this is definitely where it's more pronounced. The Galaxy S25 is a very light phone compared to the Pixel 9, and that should be owed to the smaller internal battery, the smaller chassis, but also there is smaller screen bezels and a thinner profile here which do start to add up. Save for those tiny camera rings, the S25 is just a small slate shape, and I think what's impressive is just how well this device feels, and by extension how well the other device, the Pixel 9, feels in the hand. I think in years gone by the Pixel would have a noticeable quality gap, but Google's managed to vault that fairly fast, and it's to their credit. It also feels like we're constantly talking about how the Tensor chip is underpowered compared to the competition, but it is the truth. It's to add to that, I think in theory and in practice, there's going to be a huge performance gulf between the Pixel 9 and the Galaxy S25. Whether that matters to you is another story entirely. Here's the good news though. I will say that the entire S25 series now uses that modified Snapdragon 8 Elite chip for Galaxy phones, so there's no Exynos globally this time around, which I'm sure you're probably happy to hear. So it means no matter which country you're in theory at least, you should be able to get the top tier performance no matter which S25 you choose. And to be honest with you, I think all you need to know is that that phone itself is a little beast, and it should well run rings around the Pixel 9 for a long times to come. That's not to say that it's all bad for Google. The Pixel 9 runs just fine as is, but if you plan to hang on to it for a few years, you may see some performance degradation, and that is honestly a very valid concern. We haven't seen that too drastically, at least since the first generation Tensor chip in the Pixel 6 series, but it could become a problem. There is absolutely no doubt about it, but for now, the performance is pretty good. The performance gulf aside, the core of each phone is very similar despite the chipset changes. You get 12GB of RAM and multiple storage tiers on both of these phones. You can though get a 512GB variant of the S25 if you want more storage, but no storage expansion is available for either phone. Other notables include the addition of Wi-Fi 7 on the S25. It is missing from the Pixel 9 series, which only has Wi-Fi 6E connectivity, so it's not quite as future-proof, but on the whole, these do stack up pretty well considering there's a chipset difference between them. So hardware is one thing, but software is another beast entirely, and for the most part, the Pixel 9 has a cleaner version of Android 15 pre-installed, while the Galaxy S25 builds upon what it already has with One UI, but with more personalization and even more AI options to help get things done, tailor the experience, or just mess around with. Without delving into that full software stack, Gemini and Galaxy AI provide lots more functions out of the box for the S25 lineup this year than ever before. Naturally, Google likes to partner with Samsung to offer these ahead of other devices, but Google has again kept things behind apps on the Pixel 9 series like Pixel Studio, Pixel Screenshots, while Samsung is putting Gemini-powered functions into the very core of the OS itself, We expect that to change on Pixel phones with Android 16. That does remain to be seen, but Samsung has a few exclusive functions, at least for a little while. And one of the biggest upsides is that the Pixel and the Galaxy S25 do now come with 7 years of software and security updates as standard. I think that's great for longevity, it's great for Android period, and if you want to pick up a used or refurbished device later on, it means you should be supported so long as it's still within its support window, which I really do love to see. So while the S25 does edge ahead in some areas, there is a bit of a gulf in the battery capacities of the Pixel 9 and the Galaxy S25. At just 4,000 mAh, the S25 might have a more efficient SoC, but I do think that might cause some bottlenecks, at least in its lifespan, especially as it does have a power-hungry display. We haven't yet been able to delve too deeply into how well these two phones stack up, but yeah, it is a concern. The 4,700 mAh battery and improved 10-to-G4 efficiency are still more than enough, at least in my experience, to power through a long day with a little bit of headroom to spare on the Pixel 9 series. Initially, I would be concerned about the Galaxy S25 as I mentioned, the display and extras going on under the hood could mean that this is something that eventually means you're not getting the lifespan that you're expecting straight out of the gate. Tie that into the battery charging speeds, which both of these are not very fast. You got 25 watts on the Galaxy S25 plus 10 watt wireless charging, and then you have reverse wireless charging as well. On the Pixel 9 series, it's about 27 watts with the official Google charger or a PD charger, but that then does go up to 21 watts with the Pixel stand if you do want to use wireless charging. So yeah, it's a little bit of a confusing one with the battery stakes, but as far as I can see it, the Pixel 9 series does have a little bit of an edge just because it has a much larger battery and faster charging speeds, as I said. So the cameras are always important on a smartphone, and if you want a camera system that is at home in more places, I have to say the Galaxy S25 is a better pick for you than the Pixel 9. And while the Pixel does have a good dual camera system, you're missing out on the ability to zoom in and get closer to the action without seeing some pretty big quality degradation. The zoom range is also capped at just 8x on the Pixel 9, which is disappointing in its own right, while the Galaxy S25 has that dedicated 3x telephoto zoom that can go as high as around about 30x with some processing helping to sharpen images above that 10x level. I think tuning is also another key area where you'll notice a difference between images from the Pixel or a Samsung phone period. There are a few extra video recording modes baked in as well, but little to truly separate both base model camera systems, I think, in the actual just random pictures taken with that main wide lens. For flexibility, I do think it's hard to look past the Galaxy S25, and of course you do have extra options like 8K recording as well, which does mean that, as I say, it's a much more of a Swiss Army knife of camera systems at this price point. I have to say overall, sometimes it's easy to overlook the base model in favour of those big, flashy flagship phones within a smartphone lineup. While you have lots of fun courtesy of those high-end trappings, I think most people are going to be best suited to getting the base model and saving themselves some money, especially if there's discounts on the line. The Galaxy S25 is a perfect example of this, as I think it provides the building blocks for an excellent experience and, in my opinion, at least at this stage, usurps the Pixel 9 in the value for money factor, especially when we consider those basic or RRPs across the board. The cold hard reality though is that you get a lot more phone for that $799 by picking up the Galaxy S25, which is of course part and parcel of that price creep for Google's lineup this time around. That said, I think if you prefer a clean software experience and want day one updates, which is naturally something that a lot of people want, the Pixel 9 is really tough to ignore, and with those price drops since launch, you can get this well under that $500 rate. It becomes a really great buy. I have to say though, overall, if you do want to pick one of these, you're going to have to tell me what you think is the best. Let me know down in the comment sections below. It's always interesting to hear your thoughts. I'm very interested to hear which you think is the better of this duo. And of course, later down the line, we'll revisit this and see which one really is the best. But thanks for watching, and I will speak to you later.